Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ryan. Today I'm going to be doing a tier list. So at this point, I have now maxed out every single class in the game. So I'm at level 25 on all of them. I have endgame builds on all of them. I've been farming Ruthless tier on all of them. So I have a pretty good understanding of these classes at this point. I've been posting these deep dives. If you want deep dives on the classes, I've got my deep dives for most of these already done and posted, so you can check those out. I think I still have heavy left to do. But anyways, I'm now done with the whole leveling grind, and I really wanted to wait to do a tier list until I had everything maxed out and then had, used different builds and different weapon combinations so I could really get a full understanding of what these classes do, what they do well, and what they don't do well before I did a tier list. I didn't want to be that guy that was like, here's my level 2 gameplay on my Bulwark, and I think it belongs in A tier. You know what I mean? I just don't think that that's very genuine. And I don't think that it's, very reliable either. So that's why I waited this long to do it. I've now made like 23 Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 videos before doing a tier list. So let's dive into it. And we'll just go left to right here. And we'll start with the tactical. And I think most of you probably know where tactical is going to land at this point. And I am in agreement with most of the community here. I have to say that this belongs comfortably in S tier. So this is like the apex predator of the classes right now. And it's not my main. I do use it quite frequently. I very much enjoy using this class. It's not my main pick, but it is the top pick. If the chips were down and somebody said, all right, Ryan, this operation on Ruthless, you are not allowed to die. Oh, what are you going to pick? It's going to be tactical. So tactical just has so much going for it. There are no gaps in the tactical build. That's going to be something we talk about with all the other classes. There's always like a weak point. This is a team game. You have to sort of cover each other's weak spots. We did, for example, some runs the other day where we had a Bulwark and an Assault and a Vanguard who was using a Melta. And you might already know where this is going. It's a pretty huge gap there where single target damage is very weak. Like if a Neurothrope came flying by, we have one Melta rifle and 2 pistols and no like real solid debuffs for him either. So there's gaps in builds, and that's at least as long as you're not playing tactical. Tactical has no gaps in the builds. If you want CQC, you have access to CQC crowd control with the the grenade launcher, underbarrel grenade launcher, bolt rifle is just it's the best primary in the game right now. I think that most people are in agreement there. It is the best because it can do everything. It's got range covered. You got guys peppering you from downtown. You scope in, you shoot them, they die. If you've got crowds that are swarming you, you can just go to the GL and shoot straight down at your feet, and you can overheal yourself too in terms of contested health with that as well. Just the same way that like the Melta rifle does, and that probably will get changed. I would imagine it's going to get changed. If they're changing it on the Melta, they're probably changing it for everything. But as of right now, you can overheal, but even if you can't, you're still destroying everything at your feet with one just shoot a grenade launcher at my feet, make a giant boom. Now I suddenly have a ton of room to work with. But then it's also single target damage. You've got the GL shots. Once you get it to relic tier, the underbarrel grenade launcher, it's just like one shot to a major and then start slicing him with the chainsword, and he's finishable in a matter of a second. So it's just got no gaps in it. The Auspex scan as well, you're able to one-hit kill anything that isn't a boss. Anything that isn't Terminus level, you can one-shot kill them with an Auspex scan. Beyond that, you can also parry enemies to get the Auspex scan debuff on anything that you can parry. And then you can one-shot kill that one too. So there's just so much going on with tactical. It is easily S tier, the apex predator right now in the game. And then moving on, this is going to be an interesting discussion because next up is Assault. And I was featured on a friend of mine on his YouTube channel, Fallout Plays. And this was over a week ago, sort of like a week and a half ago now, where we sat down and we did a tier list where it was him doing the tier list and I gave my input and let him know where I was falling on these. And some of mine have changed since then. That was a week and a half ago. Since then, I have maxed everything out. I've got a much better picture. One of those things is Assault. I put it in the D tier when we did that video. That was before I had a lot of experience with it. Now that I have maxed out Assault, I have maxed out Relic tier, the Chainsword and the Power Fist, and I've used all the things, and I've tried different builds and combinations, and at this point, I think that I'm gonna bump it up from D tier I'm not gonna lie to you and be like, it's secretly meta. It's like secretly A tier, low key secret meta. It's not. Okay, it is not. There's some pretty sizable gaps in the assault kit, and I'm gonna have to put it. I think in. I'm gonna land top of C tier, for assault. I really like playing assault. I have, since maxing out assault, I have continued to play on it and grind on it just because it is enjoyable and it is a fun challenge. My issue with the assault class is it seems to have a bit of an identity crisis where you kind of feel like this is supposed to be the melee, front lines guy, right? Supposed to be up in the mix, surrounded by enemies, whipping that hammer around and landing with the jetpack for big AoE damage. And there's just a few things that are not really clicking with that. One of them is there's just not a lot built into the assault kit for reclaiming contested health. I mean, you look at other melee frontline characters like the Bulwark that has built in, I think it's like 50% more slowly that your contested health goes down. Plus, he has more health to begin with as a passive buff. Plus, his weapon, the power sword, has access to a perk that makes it so that you can reclaim twice as much contested health when you're swinging with the power attacks. And so all that stuff's kind of cooked into the Bulwark, but the Assault doesn't have that, which makes Assault a high risk and very low reward class. You just can't get that health back. And that's a real challenge. It's a real weak spot in the kit. And so, unfortunately, the best way to offset that is by having a Bulwark. But if you do that, you have 2 out of 3 on your team that don't have a primary weapon. It's a problem. I mean, it just is. So I think that Assault is in some need of some love. I did really enjoy really clicking with the perfect dodge, sort of side of the Assault kit and speccing into gun strikes. Because the Assault can get like 50 to 75% extra damage on gun strikes, depending on how you build out your kit with him. But he also has as a passive ability twice as long. He's got double the duration of his perfect dodge windows. So once you really start leaning into those perfect dodges to keep gun strikes, you're going to be taking down a lot more majors. It's going to really open up a new element. So, and I think that exists to offset the lack of a primary weapon, because now you do have something that's going to do big damage to big targets while you're using the jetpack and your melee weapon to take out the little guys in the crowds. So it is really fun, but it's also a bit of an identity crisis, because then you end up relying a lot on gun strikes, and that's not really, I guess, a part of the whole melee guy fantasy. So for that reason, I gotta put Assault down in C tier. Just know that if I rank your favorite thing low, feel free to let me know in the comment section why you disagree. Yeah, totally open to any points you want to make and disagreements you want to have with it. But I just think after leveling all of these up, it is clearly the bottom dog. Then we have the Vanguard. Vanguard is so fun. If you told me right now, all right, Ryan, you can only pick one class, it has nothing to, well, I can't say it has nothing to do with my name being True Vanguard. There's a bit of a connection there, which I'll tell you about. But if I had to pick one class that I could only play for the rest of my life in this game, it would be the Vanguard class. It's so fun, it's so dynamic, and I just really enjoy the traversal around the battlefield and being able to pick out the high priority targets. The grapnel launcher is great for just picking out the one big guy. You're sort of like the assassin on the field. You've got the skull face, and you're zipping around just picking out the commanders, the guys who are controlling the hordes, doing ranged damage to your team. You're picking them out. You're saying, I'm going to go assassinate you. I'm going to go take you down. And I got to put it in A tier here. So I'm going to end up having Vanguard up at A tier. And one of the reasons for that is definitely because it has access to 2 great weapons. The burst rifle carbine, I think, gets slept on. And actually, once you build it out, that gun does really great ad clear damage from downtown. A lot of people are just going to default to the melter rifle, and I cannot fault you for that. Obviously, melter rifle is incredible. And if you are playing as the Vanguard, you're going to be up at point blank all the time. You're going to be zipping up into majors, and you're going to start slicing them down, whether it's with your chainsword or with your combat knife. I recommend the combat knife, personally, for Vanguard. But anyways, Melta, you can't go wrong there. You can just zip around and start blasting the ads, give yourself some room to work with, and you will absolutely slay out with a Melta rifle. But you also have the 3-round burst carbine. That one's actually really fun, and it does decent damage to bigger guys when they're further away too. So sometimes it's like you want to take a couple of guys out before you zip in, and then it's a little bit lower risk once you get in the mix. But either way, Vanguard is such a fun kit. You can ignore death, but there's a typo in the skill tree right now. It says you get the like the level 25 perk is that you get 1% of your red HP back for every Majoris level enemy that you kill with a melee attack or an executable melee attack counts as well. And that's supposed to say 10%. That's a typo. It's 10%. So that will help keep you alive when you are up there dueling the bigger targets like you're supposed to be doing with the Vanguard. Anyways, this class is super fun. It's super effective. Yes, you only have 2 armor bars, but pick up your power boosts, and then obviously your armor boost, and then obviously if you're focusing down the mages, you're going to be getting your armor charges back with your finishes and gun strikes and things of the sort. So I find that to be a non-issue on Ruthless tier as long as you keep the pedal all the way down to the floor. Vanguard A class. Moving on. Oh, I told you I was going to tell you the connection between my name and the Vanguard name. This class reminds me a lot of Mass Effect 2, the Vanguard class in Mass Effect 2, which has the biotic charge. So you charge, you do this flex, and then you charge in. You do almost like a teleport where you just like lightning. You strike in to a targeted area, and it knocks the enemies back. And then you have buffs to your damage for a few seconds, so you can teleport in, knock stuff back, and then just start unloading with a shotgun or an SMG, and that's really fun. That was about the time that I made the transition from Xbox to PlayStation, but my Xbox gamer tag was taken, so I had just come off a Mass Effect 2 playthrough and was loving the Vanguard class, so I named myself True Vanguard, and that's why I'm named what I'm named here on YouTube. So anyway, since this class behaves much the same way as the biotic charge with the Vanguard class in Mass Effect 2, I do have to say there does feel like there's a connection there, and that could explain why I have a certain affinity for it. Let's talk about Bulwark next. This one is kind of the opposite for me as Assault was. When I originally did my, the tier list with Fallout Plays, he put Bulwark in S tier, I put it in A tier. And I have since maxed it out. I've done full deep dive on the class. And I have to say, unfortunately, it has dropped for me to B tier. That's not to say it's bad. B is not bad. B is hey, it's fine. It is. And if I were to use a word to describe Bulwark, I would say it's fine. Here's my issue with Bulwark. It is great at tanking damage. It's very good at that. But it is a support class. It's definitely a support class. And soloing content or trying to carry teammates who maybe are less experienced or not as leveled up is much more challenging because you just don't have the output that other classes have. If a Carnifex spawns, you get your plasma pistol. It's going to work for a little bit. It's going to do a little bit of decent damage, I suppose. If you hear crunching, my dog decided to lay down next to me and chew on a bone, so I apologize. But anyways, it just doesn't have the damage output. And yeah, you can get up in the Carnifex's business with a sword, but you have to manage, or a Hellbrute, but you got to manage all the big AoE attacks that you're just going to have to walk away sometimes and come back. Or God forbid you get a Neurothrope and you have to try and do all the damage yourself with a plasma pistol. Good freaking luck. It's going to take forever. And because of that, the Bulwark, if you're playing with good players at your same level, you're probably not going to be the guy with the most kills. You're probably not going to be the guy with the least damage taken, and you're probably not going to be the guy with the most ranged damage either. So there's just not enough output for Bulwark for me to warrant putting it higher on the list. Does he survive the most? Sure. I mean, yeah, I'll put the gene seed in the Bulwark's hand every time if it's up to me. But he's also not going to be the one that's helping progress us through as quickly as the other classes. If the chips are down and the last guy is either going to be a tactical or a Bulwark on my team, I will ask him to be the tactical instead. Moving on to Sniper. So the Sniper for me, this is a tough one because for me, the sniper rifle, the sniper kit in general, is so good at one thing in particular, and that is single target damage. And there are definitely times when we need a sniper, that Neurothrope's out there, or we got a big terminus, tier enemy of some kind that needs to go down quickly, or maybe we don't have a tactical on the team and the Zoanthropes spawn, and they got us pinned down. I want a sniper on my team. I sure as heck want a sniper on my team. And so that is such a key part of what makes a sniper good, but there's also gaps in the build. It's not great at crowd control. A lot of times you're going to get these massive enemy waves, and what's going to happen is your sniper is going to get pressured. He's going to go invisible, and the very second he cloaks, every enemy that was aggroed on him is now going to immediately shift their aggro to a different player. So a lot of times I'm going to be fighting back the waves with whatever class I'm playing, just trying to keep my head above water, and my teammate who's a sniper decides he's going to camo himself. And the second that he does, I go from being manageable to now I have 20 more gaunts that are charging me down that weren't charging me down earlier. Now it's just added to the pressure for me. And he doesn't want to break camo early. He's probably going to let it ride out at least half of the way. And that's a lot of time that your other teammates now have to deal with the added pressure. Oh my gosh, you're chewing so loud, dog. She's wagging her tail at me like, yeah, that's the problem. This is what I do. I'm a dog. Yeah, you're lucky you're cute. Anyways, so for me, sniper, I want to say is S tier just because of the damage output, but it has clear gaps in the build. It's not good for soloing content, because you just can't keep up with the waves with that little knife as much as possible. And there's ways you can build the knife out to be better at crowd control, but you're still going to end up doing a lot of kiting, a lot of backpedaling, and getting to safe spaces where you can really let your sniper rifle do the work. And that being said, Las Fusil is like the only pick. I mean, sure, you can use the bolt sniper, and it does okay. Sure, you can use the little carbine. That's pretty cool, too. And there's ways to build that out, too, but it's very contrary to the whole idea of the class being a sniper. So I think the Las Fusil is just probably what 99% of people are going to end up using anyways. So there's just not a lot of variety within the kit. So for that reason, I'm going to have to, I think I'm juggling between, I think I'm going to have to say bottom A tier. I'm going to have to say bottom A tier. And that leaves us with heavy. Where is heavy going to fall? I almost wanted to put sniper at the top of B, just above the bulwark. But here we go. Now we have the heavy. So I think most people agree when you have a heavy on the team, it's sort of the same issue with the sniper, is that there's just one choice. Okay, if you're playing at Ruthless tier and somebody brings that, the Gatling gun bolt rifle, it's like, guys, I'm gonna have to ask you to put that away. I won't actually. I'll definitely let them do it. I never tell people what to run, but still, I'm always like, "Oh, you sure?" Just sort of under my breath, like, "Okay, well, I guess." The problem is with the heavy stance, especially with the Gatling gun, it's just not viable at the higher tiers. Even if you spec out your Halo to do AoE damage to the gaunts and the other small guys that might come up to you, you just don't have the room to maneuver with that thing. A lot of times you're in tighter spaces with stuff jumping on you, and so you have to leave that heavy stance because you need to be able to parry, you need to be able to dodge. The attacks are coming in, and you're very limited when it zooms in and you're in your heavy stance. You really set down in it. And so you brought it even closer. Why don't you come up here and let the people see you? Come here. Let the people see you since you decided you need to come in here and make a lot of noise. Yeah, you're a good girl. They want you. Give me a kiss. Thank you. Good girl. Okay, more kisses. Okay. Excellent. You good girl. Okay, I'm going to put you down. Thank you. That's Luna Bear. Anyways, where was I? So it makes the Gatling gun really hard to use well because so many times you're going to have to leave the heavy stance, which is going to severely cut down your rate of fire on it. And you really have to have two very aggressive aggro-taking teammates on your team if you're going to really leverage the Gatling gun well. Unfortunately, I think the Plasma Incinerator is just not all that great. Ammo economy is not great. Travel time on the projectiles isn't great, and you can obviously increase that. But still, it's just the multi-melta is the choice. And it's the same problem that Sniper has where it's like multi-melta or bust, right? It's because multi-melta is so good, right? It will just absolutely shred. You get 500 kills at the end of an operation, especially at Ruthless tier when there's more ad density. You're going to end up with 500 kills. You're going to end up with 25,000 ranged damage. And everyone's going to be struggling to keep up with you when it comes to just killing the ads. But for me, the only problem with heavy is the mobility is an issue, especially the higher tiers. When things get closer to you, you really need to have teammates who are intentional about trying to keep all the chaff away from you and dismiss the rabble, so to speak. And especially if you are to get ganged up on by a horde of majors, that's a real Achilles heel of the heavy. You need to get used to like going into heavy stance, multi-melta, coming out of heavy stance, parrying, dodging, back into heavy stance, shoot the melta, shoot the melta. You know what I mean? So it's a lot to manage. And good heavies can manage that, absolutely. They're used to setting into the heavy stance and coming out of it when they need to and being really rapid about those transitions. A good heavy can do that, but it is just not as maybe easy or direct or simple as some of the other classes that can do similar things just as well. So I don't think it's S tier. Clear gaps in the build, but I do think that it is top of A tier. And so that is my final ranking. So if we're going from top to bottom, it's going to be tactical is the Apex Predator top dog, no gaps in the build, followed by heavy, just because of the sheer numbers and the sheer damage output you're looking at here. This is like the opposite of Bulwark, which just doesn't have the output. You know what I mean? It's got the chunkiness and the survivability, but way more output, just dialed up to 11. After that, it's going to be the Vanguard class, highly mobile, the Assassin. And yes, the sniper is really good at getting those majors finishable quickly as well for your guys that are on the front line. And I do like that, but the only difference is that Vanguard is going to do the same thing, but he's going to also be clearing the ads. He's got way better ad control than the sniper by a landslide. And on top of that, he's taking aggro. He's not pushing aggro on his teammates. So Vanguard a little bit higher for me, followed by sniper in 4th place. Then it's going to be the Bulwark. Again, highly survivable. Give him the gene seed every time. He's just not going to go down. That's great. But he's also not going to have a lot of output. You're going to have to carry him when it comes to output. And then after that, in last place is going to be Assault. And that's where I fall with my tier list. I will say this, and if I'm making the tier list based on fun, not just how good it is, it would look very different. I mean, Assault would be much higher because I think Assault is very fun to play. Vanguard, very fun to play. I think Heavy is so boring to play. I know some people love Heavy. They do. And I admit it's probably the second best class in the game. But it bores me to death, guys. Just walking around, just boom, boom. You know what I mean? Boom. Everywhere you go is just boom. It's not like when I'm playing my Vanguard and 3 majors are jumping at me and I parry, gun strike, perfect dodge, gun strike, slice, finish, dodge, gun strike. That is super fun. It's super dynamic as opposed to boom, boom. It just bores me to death, guys. But that's just me and my play style. So that's the tier list. Let me know in the comment section how you would rank these yourself. Okay, let me know. I want to know. I'm always very curious about this. Give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in your comment, and even if you just want to say here's my ranking and no context at all, that's fine. Otherwise, if you are changing things up from my list and you want to say here's why I think the sniper belongs higher than heavy, do it. Please argue your case. I would love to read that. Cheers, my friends. Thanks so much for tuning into the video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. You've been a godsend. I was getting very tired of just covering Destiny all the time. Been doing that for like 10 years. I have branched out and done variety in short spurts here and there and covered other games fairly successfully, but they're always very short-lived. And so I have very much enjoyed the breath of fresh air that it has been to cover Space Marine 2 for these past few weeks. And knowing that I have plenty more content to make, like I don't have to just go back to what I have been doing. It's very enjoyable for me. Also, the world is just so rich and it's kind of overwhelming. Like I'm listening to lore videos and I'm reading wiki pages. I'm like, I hear a word somebody mentions, like, oh yeah, the Battle Sisters. I'm like, I don't know what that is, and I just look it up on the wiki, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so freaking cool. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to absorb it all, and that's been a really fun element and component to this journey as well. So thank you so much for your support, for watching the videos. Leave a like on it if you enjoyed it, as that's the best free way to support the content right here on YouTube. And if you want to get involved in our community, we have a Discord community. It's got like an LFG. There are people in there. There's people in there right now in our community who are gaming and grinding right now together. Whether you are running minimal or average or ruthless, substantial, whatever it is, there's people in there who are ready and willing to help. They're on all the time. I tell them to touch grass. They tell me to shut up. But anyways, if you want to get involved in our community, we've got about 60 of us right now in there. It's super fun. And the way that we have this linked up, just so we can keep things managed, is it's through the Patreon. It's dirt cheap. It's the $3 tier. This is $3, and that when you link your Discord account to it, it will automatically give you the role that you need in order to see the Space Marine rooms in the Discord. And if you have any trouble with that, some people just can't get that working just right. And I just do it manually for you. So just reach out to me privately. Just know that on Wednesday, I'm going to be out of town. So if you have any issues on Wednesday, I may not be able to get to it immediately, but I will get to it within 24 hours. But thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, be warm and well fed. Courage and honor. Bye-bye.